On the rounded column corners, the finials are 1/8 inch pipe female, so they need to screw into the 1/8 inch pipe. But the problem is, because this can only be 270 degrees or less, I have to cut part of it out. So what I do is I hold these with a pair of vice grips, and I put them in here. And here you have it. This is what it looks like after you cut it out. Pretty simple process. Actually, it cuts so cleanly that I can thread it pretty easily on the finials.
This section of the colonial metalsmithing will discuss cutting the glass to put into the lanterns. Now, because these are old lanterns, I've got what is called clear CD glass. And as you can see, it has some imperfections in it, which is typical of the old glass that was available in the time. So the glass cutting process is first to get the dimensions of the glass that you need, and the dimensions that I'll be working with are 4 3/8 in this direction and 8 3/8 in that direction. So this is a commercially available sheet, and basically it comes in a small size, so there's a lot of waste. Unfortunately, the cost of shipping a large piece of glass is really expensive. So the first dimension, and what I'm using here, is a mat cutter for cutting mats for frames, but it works pretty well, and it makes it fairly simple. So 5/16, I add a 1/16 for the thickness of the glass cutter. This glass cutter is a Fletcher, a pretty standard glass cutting tool in the industry, one that I've pretty much used for my career. Okay, I always dip it in a lubricating fluid. What I'm using today is garage door lubricant. We just poured it in a little or sprayed it in a little container and used it. Now, okay, I've always learned how to use a glass cutter in this fashion. I hold it vertically. You'll hear a like scratching on the blackboard sound, and I go through it. Then, and this is very traditional for any glass shop, they take the bottom of the glass cutter, they put it down, and they push down hard, and it cracks. So there you go. Pretty good crack. Let me just kind of give a quick check. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll cut another piece while I got the gauge set. They don't recommend going over your score line one and done is what they want. Okay, so here's the first piece of waste. So there's my two pieces. Cutting glass, once you learn how to do it, it's pretty simple. Learning how to do it is always a little bit of a challenge. You can see that these just don't quite fit, but if I put them in this way, they will fit. And I slip them into the glass clip and close them down. As you can see right here, it sits in this glass clip, and that's only so that I can have a reasonable space. On the brass lanterns, I use a product called Simichrome Polish. This is readily available on Amazon or other online stores. In the polishing, it's pretty standard. The polish is basically, kind of in a fluid-like form. And I've already polished part of this, as you can see. And I go over polishing. This goes on like a pink liquid. And if I really have some bad spots from burning or other issues, I'll use 4-ounce steel wool. Okay, so you can see the oxidation comes off in the polishing cloth, and I keep changing positions of the polishing cloth, and the oxidation continues to come off. And of course, that's the purpose of this. Okay, so you can see the polished section, and then you have the unpolished section. So this makes a dramatic change, and of course, I only polish lanterns that are going to be used inside. Usually takes a couple hours because I always polish the outside and the inside. I do the outside much better than the inside, but I always try to take the tarnish off. I do a tin lantern. I always use 4-ounce steel wool. And polish doesn't do a lot for this because it's already got a shine and it's not oxidized. So I clean it up and get it looking reasonably decent. And then in this case, I'll take a clean cotton cloth and I'll buff it up a little bit, and that will be it. So you can see this that's been done and this side that hasn't been done. So that's how you polish these. Again, like I said, it's a couple of hours. Activity, of course, would be spray painting. Now I use two different types of spray paint. On the brass lanterns, I use Minwax, Hillman's Spar urethane. This is about the best urethane you can get. I always use gloss. A couple of things to note when you spray. I always like to spray outside. One, that for safety, but two, I like to do it when there's a good amount of sunlight so you can see your spray pattern, which is really important. I spray both the inside and the outside on a lantern like this. When I spray the inside, I would hold it upside down and spray in here and work my way around. You got to be careful not to hit the outside edges of the columns, and I get what I'll consider a fairly light coat. Then I turn it upside down, or right side up in this case, and then I would continue to spray the tops and the bottoms. My experience with using this product is I spray it on the outside 3 times, lightly. I don't spray it very heavy. I hold it about 12 inches away, and it will get kind of a slight misting looking pattern, and then it's kind of done. It's one and done with this. I never put a second coat on. I've had a few lanterns where, I've had mishaps. I put too much
spray on it, especially if it's on a surface that you see on the inside. Not so much of a big deal, but on the outside, especially on the tops, then I'll strip it down and re-polish it. These lanterns, I use a clear crystal top coat tint to it, whereas this crystal clear will actually leave it crystal clear. This is almost a different spray application. It runs very, very easy because it's not an oil-based product, so you have to be careful on the application. It's quick drying, so you don't have you don't have the wetting pattern with it. The lantern that I sprayed with this, and obviously this is brass, you can see that it actually turned out fairly decent. If you don't put enough on, what you're going to get is you're going to get kind of a dusty looking pattern. It won't be, crystal clear, and there's really not a lot you can do. If you don't like it, you got to take it off. This is the other water-based product. You just have to learn how to use it. So this is my press brake. Basically, it's 12 ton, and this is the die. And I'll take it apart and show you how the die is set up. But this 3/4 inch plate with the 4 springs on it actually comes down and holds the piece that's already been positioned in place. And then the pressure from the jack actually pushes the 2 dies together and results in the piece. When I take it apart, I'll show you what the deficiencies are. Obviously, I'm not going to fix it because it was a lot of work. So let me start jacking it down. And I've already pre-positioned it. Now you can see the spring is tightening up, and the pressure to put it on is becoming greater. And you can see the bolts where the springs are coming up. So I take this to the point where that's about it. And when it comes to punching, it's got these ripple effects, and I'll tell you how I could have eliminated it. But so these are the 2 guides, and this is the return spring to push this up. And this bottom die was made with a piece of steel going around, and then this is DevCon plastic, which is poured in place and conforms to the die. What the problem is this distance here should probably be quite a bit bigger, and the downward pressure instead of 12 tons should probably be more like 20. The other thing I did, because this die was made for, this die support was made for a smaller application, I welded on extensions, which you can see right here. This is where I started. This is a piece of hardwood, and I cut it out and configured it so it was the shape that I wanted. And after I got that done, I set it on here so that I would get an imprint that was perfect. This is not, perfect because it's done by hand. So, and then this hold down is not perfect either. On this side here, it's not enough. So You'd be better off if you had a big hydraulic press brake and you could just mount this on the bottom and this on the top, and the press brake would keep it straight. You wouldn't need a die like this. If you look at it here, you can see that I welded these blocks on to try to utilize it better. But hey, you know, live and learn, like they say. You can see, if you look carefully at those corners, they didn't really turn out all that well